Hey there, so this is my first video here, and I'm gonna be honest, sorry if I'm not the best at getting my points across yet, or if I come across as rambly or hard to follow, or this video just isn't the most well made. I know I'll get better as time goes on, and I'm sure I'll clarify my points in a better video later, but you gotta start somewhere. Better to get an imperfect video out now than a perfect video out never. I was replaying Skyrim recently and thought to myself, you know what? Yeah, I think I'll try some survival mods. I noticed last time I played it, oh my god, like almost 10 years ago, things would get kind of formulaic. I just fast traveled from place to place, zipping between quests after a while, and sure, I'd explore. But eventually, I'd want to actually, complete the story quests. So I thought to myself, maybe if I have to stop and eat and drink and sleep and watch what clothes I wear, I'll have to slow down and enjoy each adventure. 50 hours later, I thought to myself, all I'm doing is stopping and eating food and drinking water when I see the notification pop up. I'll stop whenever I see a bed and hit sleep for 8 hours or whatever. This isn't making me slow down and enjoy the game. It isn't even realistic any more than fast traveling or surviving this. This is just a speed bump to me completing the quests. And that just made me think of my old adage that I've had for a long time. Realism can't happen yet. Now, before I start, I need to make sure we're all familiar with two things, being the uncanny valley and the holodeck. If you don't know what those are, then go ahead and give them a quick Google before continuing. So, when I say that realism can't happen yet, it's because the things we decry as unrealistic, like books or video games, cannot escape from the uncanny valley until they are the holodeck. Simply put, they are an inherently unrealistic medium. It's like a wall right in front of the edge of the valley. It's impossible to cross because you're not participating in a real event, and that's by design. Everything except someone just recording facts exactly as they happen was made by someone, or groups of someones, working to form some kind of narrative, implementing music and color theory, costume design, scene transition, symbolism, pro-style gameplay loops, everything to serve the medium in which that story was delivered. A film has to be a film. A game needs to not be frustrating to play. Even documentaries and textbooks still have to change their depictions of the facts in some way, and that still colors the facts that are being shown. That's why I put the qualifier exactly up there a bit earlier. It's why learning about a historical person is one thing, but reading the words they actually spoke gives you an entirely new feeling. Let's take a look at some examples, starting with books, specifically the progenitor of non-realism and stories, aka fantasy, Tolkien. This is the classic, why didn't the hobbits just fly on the eagles to Mount Doom? That'd be much more realistic. No, we gonna be best friends. Except for the fact that the eagles would be way easier to tempt with power than a hobbit and be much easier for a fell beast to spot as they flew over the mountains of Mount Doom and all that. Dork alert! But according to Tolkien, then there wouldn't be a story what we are reading. It's not fun. It's boring. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but still, sometimes you just have to ignore what's realistic so you can tell your fun tale about some dudes hiking while the rest of the characters have the actual adventure. But that's the easy one, everyone knows that story. Okay, how about we go back a bit further to oral traditions? Carolyn Alexander, during her foreword of the Iliad, goes into how the Iliad itself, at least in that form, didn't quite seem to fit the mold of an oral story, according to the students at the University of Malawi. It had much more complex characters in the oral traditions the people there were used to. Not very realistic. Bland characters, simple characters, most people are complex. But these oral traditions needed them to just be vehicles for the morals that they were teaching. The story had to conform to the medium. Now that may be one group of people from one part of the world, but the students do have an intimate knowledge of the oral traditions there. Yeah, okay, whatever, but that's ancient history and books. I'm an overstimulated millennial who scoffs at reading literally anything. Alright, I hate you, but your films and TV are no different. Like I said, they all have to fit some kind of medium. It's not realistic for us to take shot composition into mind when we watch a man in a magic robot suit punch some purple alien, since we'd be, running away. On screen, however, that has to stay in the center of the shot. Heck, when I doodle stick figures, I have to ignore what's realistic to keep a character's color scheme the same throughout, making sure there's a balance of browns and greens or whatever, even if it's not realistic for a person to have a primary color scheme in their design. Okay, not these stick figures specifically, but you know what I mean. The same is true of actually well designed characters. Glimmer here is all pastel pinks and lilacs. The three sisters from Hamilton are differentiated by their dresses here. You'd think the princesses here would want to blend in with their environment and draw their more numerous and less tactically adept enemies into more favorable terrain. But that wouldn't be cool girls in pretty outfits punching robots. I know they're trying to make a distraction, but realistically, they'd probably die before they made enough of a distraction, and anyone with a brain would realistically see they're trying to be noticed. Is it always realistic that sisters would deliberately pick strikingly different colors for their dresses when they go out so I can remember who is who? I mean, I'm not a girl, so, I can't say. Well, look at you, Mr. Cherry Picked Examples, Mr. Superhero Movies and Cartoons. What about TV shows set in the real world, huh? Yeah, I mean, they do have to conform to what we know as reality, but no cop shows are realistic. The Godfather isn't exactly how the mafia runs itself. I mean, I'm sure we all know that Hollywood makes stuff up. Sure, you can't have a character suddenly start to fly, but everything is dramatized and still has that aforementioned adherence to the medium like choreography or lighting. All of this isn't to say we can't think a character making a stupid choice isn't stupid, or stories not following their own logic isn't annoying. The magic worked before but not now, make up your mind, man. But we have to be careful not to conflate that with realism. That's just bad writing, or getting written into a corner and saying, screw it, I don't feel like rewriting. Which happens. Not that I would know. In fact, this is a perfect place to point out a better word we can use until we can make the media into the holodeck. That being believable, not realistic. The magic worked before, but not now? That's unrealistic. The magic worked before, but not now? That's unbelievable. Maybe that's just me, but that already sounds better. I'm not asking for some high ideal that the entire story has to follow. It is space magic after all. Just make sure that the logic that you set up is followed. I think finding something believable and not realistic is a much healthier way to go about these things. Maybe I'm just splitting hairs by this point. You haven't mentioned the biggest perpetrator of this crime yet, buddy. You know, the medium with which you started this video. Yeah, a lot of that is because Extra Credits did a video on it way back when, and there's not really much else I can say. Felt the same without you, buddy. But there's a reason I brought up the holodeck before. Because it's interactive, like video games. Video games cannot be realistic until they're the holodeck, more so than almost any other medium. Extra Credits said that putting more and more money into something like that is the only way for us to eventually see what a perfectly realistic human is in a video game. And we are inching towards it, like with VR and motion capture. But like how you may have to restrict the weapons in your VR game, or you may need to play with a virtual birdcage around your head to keep yourself from getting motion sickness, VR isn't there yet. And neither are traditional video games. Perhaps it's an inherent thing that with an inherently interactive medium, we're pushing for it to be more and more realistic. Yet it still has to conform to that medium. Play any shooter and you'll get hit a lot, but does each bullet send your character to the game over screen and then to the hospital for 6 months to recover? No, and even if it did, that would probably get annoying after a while. Especially if the game was like a real firefight where you can barely see your enemy and you can get ambushed or just make a stupid fight or flight decision. Go into a real firefight and tell me how much you appreciate the realism. Stop glorifying war. Hey, it's okay, buddy. Yeah, I know, another video. But seriously, if the game did have that single bullet stops you feature, it would have to build itself around that feature. It would have to let the enemies be spotted earlier so the player can plan their path. Or they would always have to jump out and go, aha, there you are, before every shot, giving us a chance to react. It'd just get frustrating otherwise. The same is true of other features. Say that you're playing a Skyrim type game where the shops all open around 9 a.m. or whatever. Like Skyrim. Around being the operative word. Some are open at 9:30, some at 10, others are just closed today. Or, they just don't want to buy your 16 rat pelts. because who would ever actually want those? They may be nice the first few times, thinking, ah, cool, but eventually you'll probably just want to sell your freaking dungeon loot already without the hassle of remembering every store's hours and waiting longer if one just happens to be closed today, or etc. And Skyrim does such a good job letting me work around this menial issue by making the shopkeepers basically useless. Video games, everything, they all have to conform to their medium. And maybe one day we'll have the holodeck, and we'll all just lock ourselves into a Matryoshka brain, which is morally worrying, honestly. But for now, let's just enjoy whatever this person thinks they're pretending to play, and admit we're not going to get out of this valley anytime soon. So, like I said at the beginning, this is my first video on here, so I'm sorry if my presentation is choppy or lacking, or I'm just not the best at articulating my points yet. I'll keep working on it and making it better. Agree with me or not, I'd love to debate with you, and it will give me a lot of material if I ever do a follow-up video defending or revising my points. Regardless, I hope you have a nice day, or have had one. Don't forget to work towards your dreams, because even one step today is progress, so you can do it.